You can't keep calling these things cinema cameras if they lack basic Cine features and are basically the same as the photo cameras, just in a different body. This is part of what we hope may become a series of videos talking broadly about the issues that we have with different camera brands. We may be a little bit harsh, but this isn't about bashing brands. It's about discussing the issues that we have with their products overall and a few particulars. Our hope is to provide a focused breakdown and initiate a dialogue in the hopes of improving their camera systems overall. Today, we're talking about Sony. Taylor has been using Sony cameras for corporate and documentary work for the last 2 years. They produce a good image, have great rolling shutter performance, possibly the best video autofocus, and in general, they just work. This is why we have found most corporate production companies that we work with have asked for them to be their cameras for shoots. But they're not perfect. There are quite a few annoying drawbacks, limitations, and lacking features that we have noticed within the Sony ecosystem. So let's talk about what stands out to us. Our first issue is, where is the full-frame open gate? This is a feature that we love on Panasonic cameras. Not only is it super useful for anamorphic shooting, but in a world where more content is vertical, having open gate means that we can shoot for both 16:9 and 4:5 or 9:16 at the same time without having to crop in and lose information. Next, we think that they should stop being obsessed with everything being so small. Yes, there is a benefit to having smaller, lighter cameras, but given how many people are willing to shoot on the awkward pocket cinema cameras from Blackmagic, it shows that people are willing to deal with size if it means particular features are included or we get better image quality, especially if you already have a smaller option in the range, then you can have a bigger option as well. We believe that this issue is evident with the lack of lenses with image stabilization. Given that Sony have some of the weakest IBIS performance across most camera brands, making a fast f2.8 lens with stabilization would make sense, especially for video. However, we have no 24-70 f2.8 with IS, nor do we have any primes. The only reason that we can think that they don't have it is that they don't want their lenses to be too big. We think this is a mistake. To be clear, we don't want to retire smaller cameras or smaller lenses, we just want the option. Next, why don't you put false color in your cameras? We know that the Sony Camera Control app has false colors built in, which shows that they know people want it, but they won't give it to us. Another Sony feature that the smaller FX cameras are missing is shutter angle. We shouldn't have to worry about changing it every time we change our frame rate, and it's easy to bump or accidentally change given the DSLR-style body. You can't keep calling these things cinema cameras if they lack basic Cine features and are basically the same as the photo cameras, just in a different body. Next, why aren't you making your own aftermarket camera monitors? We'd love a 5 or a 7-inch Sony monitor that is calibrated so the image that we're getting on screen is bang on with what it'll look like when we edit. Something high brightness that also allows us to control the camera and use touch tracking. Yes, a new Portkeys monitor does this now, but Taylor has owned 3 of them and I've owned 2. They aren't particularly accurate and have iffy touchscreens. Sony, you're literally known for making some of the best TV panels and high-quality phones. All the pieces are there, just put it together. Next, your top handle kinda sucks. The handle itself is a bit small and built cheaply, leading to most people either not using it or buying third-party rigging to make it a little bit better. We think that you know that it's bad, and that's why there are no mounting points or even a hot shoe pass-through on top for people to mount monitors or even Sony microphones, because you're afraid that it'll lead to them ripping it apart, which does indeed happen. Don't get us wrong, we understand the need to keep costs down, but if it's at the sacrifice of build quality for what's meant to be a cinema line of cameras, it's just not acceptable to us. Also, please stop making your microphones proprietary. This is a great microphone, and yes, we love that you can take audio directly in from the hot shoe on top of the camera, but why is there no 3.5mm jack as a backup? It literally means that if we use your top handle, we can't use your microphone. It's just bad design, and it means that we're spending a lot of money on microphones that we can only use with certain cameras in certain scenarios. Another thing that we've noticed is that you seem to ignore RAW capabilities. In a sit-down interview that you did at the Condor Blue booth at NAB in 2023, Jay said that side by side, most people couldn't tell the difference between a RAW image and one using your codecs. But that's frankly irrelevant to the point of shooting RAW. The difference in RAW isn't necessarily the image quality in the delivered product, it's the image latitude and flexibility in post-production. It's about how far you can push an image before it falls apart, how much information that you can pull back when you have mistakenly or purposefully over or underexposed, or when you have to change the white balance after the fact. This makes RAW super useful and important for high-end work, especially when dealing with high dynamic range scenes with little ability or lack of time to light on set. Next, can you please give us more anamorphic D-squeeze options? At this time, the FX3 and the FX6 have a 1.3x and a 2x. 1.3x may make sense because of the 16:9 sensor, but it's not a hugely popular stretch ratio outside of the entry-level space. 2x again seems great, but you have no open gate modes in these cameras, so this means that you have to crop a huge amount of the image to use it. The most popular Sony mount anamorphic is probably the Sure 1.6x lenses, and they have no option to de-squeeze 1.6x in camera. It shows the lack of thought behind the firmware. We figure that the team behind the film The Creator probably asked Sony to give them the option as they shot in the FX3 with the Cower 2x anamorphics, and Sony just decided to give us the firmware they made for them. But that's just a theory. We've got no facts to back it up, but I think it makes sense. The next thing that we want to talk about are ND filters. We actually believe that this is going to be a key feature for small mirrorless cameras going forward. Panasonic are already rumored to be including an ND filter in their next S1H camera, and we think that Sony need to start including it in their FX bodies, period. Speaking of ND, and this might be different in other parts of the world, but we do find that the FX6 and the FX9s don't quite have enough ND internally to be able to shoot anywhere near wide open on medium to fast lenses outside. We either have to add more ND filters to the front of the lenses, which defeats the point of internal ND, or crank our shutter angle. If you look at Canon, they have the ability to stack ND filters internally because they know that this is an issue, and Sony could do the same. And that's about it. We don't think that Sony purposefully withholds features, but more likely feel that it's a battle of camera size, heat, cost, and processing power. What did we miss? Are there any features or limitations that you want Sony to fix? Let us know down in the comments below. You can also follow us via social handles, and we'll see you next time.